it basically depends on their function, like what function are they doing, whether they are taking messages to the brain or taking it back to the body. Whatever work they do, they are basically classified on the basis of that. Okay, let's just have a quick review what type of and what is their function. So sensory neurons are connected to senses, and they take your impulses from senses to brain. You have five senses that you must have learned in the like primary school. So the five senses are like sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch. So you got the impulses, or okay, the messages, the chemical messages are known as impulses. The messages that our body gets or transport through the nervous system are known as impulses. Okay? Okay. The relay neurons, or you can also call them mixed neuron or interneurons. There are so many names for this. They basically is a connection between sensory and motor neurons. Okay? The motor neurons take the messages from brain to the effectors, like wherever the work is required. Okay, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. Your light, the light hits your eye. Okay, the eye takes the messages to the sorry, what do we call it, optic nerves that are your connected to your eye. They take the messages to brain. The brain then send the message to your eyes or eye muscles to close. Okay, this is the nerve impulse. Can you hear me? You there? Okay. So I have given you a simple example of nerve impulse. Like how do you do? Or for example, somebody called you. Now you have the hearing nerves, those are called as auditory nerves. You got okay, auditory nerves or the sensory neurons take the messages to your brain. Your brain does the interpretation, and then motor neurons send the message to your like neck to move it towards the person who's calling you. Okay, so your neck muscles are basically the effectors one, which are producing the effect. You're turning the like neck, your neck. Can you give me any other example? Impulse, yes. Ear. Anything else than ear and eye? Like for example, if you have touched something hot, the hot object. If you touch the hot object, what would be your body response? Hmm. If you accidentally, yes, it would be a reflex. You're going to move your hand back, and that is done by the nerve impulse basically. Okay, the message is sent to brain by the sensory neurons. Your neurons are now have to send it back through motor neurons to the hand. So you pull your hand back. Okay, okay. If you touch the hot object, the sensory neuron take the impulse to the brain. Your brain is going sensory neuron. Okay, there are three type of neurons that we discuss. The sensory neurons connect senses with brain. So the touch is a sense, right? So it's connecting a sense to the brain. It's a sensory neuron. Okay, then your brain is going to interpret it, and the now message is taken by the motor neuron to your muscles. Okay, the message is sent to the muscles through motor neurons, and you pull your hand back. So it would be like that. whatever senses. So there is a there is a word that is stimulus we use for senses. Is taken to sensory neuron, then to interneuron, then to the motor neuron, and then to the muscles. Okay. Okay. So this is how your neuron looks like. Let's go to the labeling part of this one. Okay. This yellow thing is called as cell body, and cell body contains everything that is required. Sorry, I should have written over here cell body. Okay. What would it contain? It would contain the mitochondria. It would contain the what do we call it? Nucleus, and it would contain the cytoplasm. We have learnt all the parts already, right? What is the function of mitochondria? Good. Provides cells with energy. So basically, the nerve impulses require energy. Without energy, they cannot work. So you collapse basically when you don't eat food for a long time. You might collapse because your nervous system won't be working. You need energy so that your nervous system could work. Okay. This purple part is called as nucleus. Okay. Okay. And okay, there are branches of the cell body. These branches are called as dendrites. So this is a scientific term we use for branches. Dendrons or dendrites. Okay. Okay. Then this long body or single fiber that runs across it is known as axon. What is it called? Axon. Okay. Sometimes the axon is covered with a sheath. We call it a sheath, not sheet. So this is called as myelin sheath. Okay, it's a sheath. Sheath mean covering. So what does what is the function of myelin sheath? It act as an insulator. Insulator mean so that the messages of two neurons cannot disturb each other. Insulator mean it blocks the signals to get mixed up. So if they're like you have so many neurons in your body that run along each other, there's so many neurons at a single place. So it may happen that messages, because these are electrical signals, they got mixed up. The electrical signals might mixed up. So to prevent the mixing, there is a myelin sheath over the axon. Okay? Okay. The axon have the Schwann cells. These are, sorry, the S would be capital, is a scientist name. Oh, sorry, Schwann. Schwan. Schwann cells. It's a name of a scientist basically. And they are part of the myelin sheath that helps in the conduction of the messages. Okay? Okay. The part in between this myelin sheath, okay? In between these. This is called as node of Renvier. I know there are so many like new terms for you. Renvier. Again a name of scientist. Node mean a connection point. Okay? A connection point is known as node in sciences. Okay? Okay. This last part is called as the terminal, or we can also call it nerve endings. terminal axon or like the nerve endings, like the end of neuron? Shall I continue? I'm going to repeat it. Okay. So, okay. This one. This is myelin sheath. I have labeled it over here. Myelin sheath. And this one is the nerve endings. Okay. Okay. Uh, so there are two main parts. One is the tail, and one is, you can say, the cell body. The cell body has the nucleus, the cytoplasm, the dendrites, and the mitochondria. Okay, though mitochondria is not shown over here, but it is present. Okay, the next part, the tail part, the main, you can say, the backbone or the fiber is called as axon. Okay, the axon has a covering that is called as myelin sheath that act as an insulator, and it doesn't allow the cell to get allow the electrical impulses to get mixed up. Okay, there are Schwann cells present for the, you can say, for the protection and insulation. Okay, there is another name. Uh, you might heard of this, glial cells. Glial, not gland, glial cells. Yeah, glial cells. Yeah, they protect so this myelin sheath and the Schwann cells, these are glial cells basically. Okay. Then a space in between the myelin sheath is known as the node of Ranvier, and the end part, the basically which are act as a roots, you can say. These are known as the nerve endings or the axon terminal. Okay. Okay. Um, let's talk about the how does it work. How is nerve impulse sent? How the messages move across the neuron or from one neuron to another neuron. Okay, these neurons are not connected technically. They're not connected. There is a space in between these neurons, and this space is known as synapse. Two neurons are not connected technically, and there is a space in between two neurons, which is known as synapse. Okay, this one, the space, this is the first neuron, let's say, and this one is the second neuron. The space in between it is known as synapse. Okay, now because these are electrical impulses, the messages are sent from one neuron to another with the help of electrical signals. So there are sodium potassium pumps. So I've told you earlier in excretory system that we have lots of ions in our body, right? And they're important for the functioning of our body. So there are two main or three main ions that are needed for your nervous system. Those are sodium, potassium, and chloride. Okay? So basically the movement of sodium ions and potassium ions in the neuron help to conduct the electrical signal. The electrical signal is, you can say, produced by the movement of sodium and potassium ions. Shall I say it again? Okay. The nerve impulse or the electrical nerve impulse is basically electrical signal are conducted or produced by the movement of sodium and potassium ions, which is regulated by sodium potassium pump. Okay, so if you receive a signal, basically the sodium potassium ions start to move inside and outside the neuron, which creates electrical signals, and your nerve impulse is conducted. Okay. Then there is another thing now. the peripheral nervous system types. So there is somatic nervous system and the peripheral one, and then there is autonomic. Simple. One is for the voluntary actions, and one is for the involuntary actions, you can say. Okay? So, okay, if you're moving your hand, that is the voluntary action. Like if you are now moving your hand, or if you don't want to pick up something, it's your choice. This is under the control of somatic nervous system. Okay? Mostly voluntary actions are controlled by it. Moreover, the reflex actions are also controlled by it. Now, why do we say the reflex actions are under the control of somatic system? If you don't want to move your hand from the hot object, it is totally your choice. Okay? If you want to keep that your hand on the hot object, it would be, for example, if you're feeling cold, you want to touch the hot objects, right? So it is under your choice. It's your voluntary action. It's under your conscious or under your control. Okay? Okay. Now the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is basically automatic, like the involuntary. You are like your body is doing the digestion or filtering the blood through nephrons. That is involuntary, right? Exactly. You cannot control, like the heartbeat. So, oh, sorry, I have to write autonomic. I have written automatic. Autonomic. Okay. Then autonomic further has two types. The first one is sympathetic and parasympathetic. These are quite simple. Let's say the sympathetic one. Have you ever heard of adrenaline rush? So that is your sympathetic system. When your body prepare itself for some danger, or if you sense some like fear, so your sympathetic system is then activated. Like your heartbeat goes up, your vision become more wider, or your breathing rate increases. That is the sympathetic condition, right? That is under the control of sympathetic autonomic system. Sorry, what was it? Okay. So it is flight or fight mode system. The other one, when your body is fully active. Exactly. It's under the control of neurons, right? Autonomic is a peripheral nervous system under the control of neurons. So peripheral nervous system has two types, somatic and autonomic. Then autonomic has further two types. Okay? Okay, the second one is parasympathetic, when your body is in rest mode. Parasympathetic. When your body is in rest mode. Okay? Okay, this is all for today.